Alright, lesson 1.5. Here we're going to look at different types of pairs of angles. So the first one is called adjacent. Now all the word adjacent means is beside of. So they're angles that are side by side. So here angle 1 and 2 are side by side. Here 1 and 2 are side by side. If you say angle ABC, that is not adjacent to angle 3, and the reason is angle 3 is inside of ABC. It's on the interior. So adjacent means they're side by side, which means they share a side. They cannot be inside of each other. Here angle 3 and here angle ABC are not side by side. There's a gap right here between them. So when you say adjacent, side by side, they have to share a vertex. Okay, they have to share the vertex point, but they can't be inside of each other. Okay, a linear pair are just two adjacent angles side by side that make a line. So here, angle 1 and 2 are beside each other and make a line. Angle ADB and ADC are beside each other, but together they don't make a line. You've got a little break right here. And in vertical angles, I just always say are back to back. So 3 and 4 are vertical. 1 and 2 are vertical. Now AEB and DEC are back to back, but this is not a straight line right here. So they're not vertical angles because that is crooked. It's not straight. It's got to be two straight lines intersecting. Okay, other terms here that you need to know. We talked about this in class a little bit. Complementary. Complementary means they have to add up to equal 90. Supplementary means they have to add up to equal 180. So if they form a line, then they are going to be 180 degrees because the line is a straight angle, which is 180. One other thing to mention here, I didn't say this up here about vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. So this angle and this angle are congruent, and then this one and this one are congruent. Again, if they form a line, these two together have to equal 180. Same way these two have to equal 180. Another term, perpendicular. All perpendicular means is they form a right angle. This is the symbol for perpendicular, so make sure you know that. It's like an upside down capital T. So that gives us a relationship again of 90 degrees. And then this is just a good slide to look at about things that you can assume and cannot assume. So again, referring back to lesson 1.4, one of the things I said was you cannot trust pictures, you can only trust information. So, for example, it says here they're perpendicular, HM and HL. Well, you can't assume that because you don't have a box here. That would be information. If there was a box here, you know it's 90 degrees, so you could say perpendicular. So make sure you just understand things that you can do and things that you can't do based on information or just what a picture looks like, because a picture doesn't always give you all that you need to know. So let's look at some example problems for this lesson. So here we are using a picture. Question number 1, name two acute vertical angles. So acute's less than 90. Vertical means they're back to back, but they have to be made by two straight lines intersecting. So here and here are two lines intersecting. So I could say the angle WVU, which is this one, is vertical to angle YVZ, this one right here. Now one thing you notice about vertical angles, they have to have the same vertex. The next question, two obtuse adjacent angles. So if they're obtuse, they're bigger than 90, and adjacent, side by side. So two obtuse adjacent angles. So I think a good example would be here, angle UVX, and then we could take this angle right here, XVZ. Now again, adjacent, they have to share a vertex. They've got to be beside each other. Obtuse is bigger than 90. That one bigger than 90. The reason I know it's bigger than 90 is because it makes more than a straight line, because a straight line's 180. Okay, let's continue on. It says in question A, what type of angles are formed by the object and its image? So if you take the object angle here and the image angle here, those are vertical angles. What do we know about vertical angles? We could also say they are congruent. We know vertical angles are congruent earlier. So it says if the measure of angle 2 is 15, what is the measure of angle 1? So we just got through saying they're congruent, so it must be 15 as well. Okay. Number 4. The measure of two complementary, so it's important you know the term, complementary angles, 7x plus 17 and 3x minus 20. So that has to equal 90 because that's what complementary means. So now we work this out. So that's 10x minus 3 equals 90 and 3. So if I do that, that's going to give me 10x equals 93. And then divide by 10. So we get x is 9.3. So you get a decimal here. But we still haven't answered the question. It says find the measures of the angles. So then what I have to do is I got to take 9.3 and plug it back in for x right here. So I don't have a calculator with me, but that's all you would do is just plug those in and times them on the calculator. Okay. Now let's do number 5. So as we continue on with geometry, one of the things you will learn is that geometry is about relationships. So it's always figuring out what is the relationship in order to set up your equation and stuff. So it says lines x and y intersect to form adjacent angles 2 and 3. So here's line x, here's line y, form adjacent angles 2 and 3. So it says angle 2 is 3a minus 27. It says angle 3 is 2b plus 14. It says find the values of a and b so that x is perpendicular to y. So my picture doesn't fit this, but if x and y are perpendicular, then what that means is this has to be 90, and that has to be 90. So that's why we always say don't trust pictures. If I'd read the problem all the way through, this is really how my picture should have looked. So x, y, then that would be 3a minus 27. Put a box here, that would be 2b plus 14, and that would better represent the problem itself. Okay, so now what do? Well, since they're perpendicular, we know that makes 90-degree angles. So I'd have 2b plus 14 equals 90. Subtract 14. 2b is 76. Divide by 2. So you get b is 38. Do the other one. 3a minus 27 equals 90. Add 27. 3a equals 117. Divide by 3. And we get a is 39. Okay. So again, just some different relationships with angles. You're going to work on this in class with the handout. But again, make sure you know the terminology and their definitions. Otherwise, you can't set up the relationships.